I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be recording this meeting. So if you don't want your face recorded, please turn off your video. And welcome. Welcome. It's Wednesday morning, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here at the Catholic Charities Parish Liaison Network quarterly meeting. We are always so very grateful to have your participation and your support, particularly in this virtual format. We always enjoy being able to gather together in person. It's a very special time, but given the continued circumstances in our world, we're so grateful to have your continued support in this virtual realm too. We have a wonderful agenda today, and our topic in honor of National Mental Health Awareness Month, which is this May, we are focusing on mental health awareness in our parishes. We are attempting to shatter the stigma around mental health. And before we actually start the content of our meeting, we have the agenda up for you today. I will be leading us in an opening prayer, and then we want to run a poll for all of our participants today to just get a baseline understanding of your understanding or your interaction with mental health systems or with anybody who has struggled with mental illness. So we'll be doing that first. Then we'll be moving on to a panel today that we have comprised of our Catholic Charities clinicians, as well as our intake coordinator, to kind of give you a sampling of what to expect, the nuts and bolts of if someone is in pursuing mental health treatment, what to expect, what the costs are, how often, the frequency, all of those small details will be explained by our coordinator. We're fortunate today to actually have a representative from St. Mary's Parish who actually has a mental health support community, and we'll be hearing from Kristen Obadal of the St. Labra community talking about what they're doing in their parish, possibly something that your parishes might be able to model. And we have updates from our St. Lucie Food Project, as well as an exciting new development within our Mother of Mercy Free Clinic. Our program director, Alexandra Lavano, will be speaking to that. And then we will be closing our meeting. We're targeting 11:30. We have a full meeting today. There'll be some time in between for some questions and answers. So if you could hold your questions until those times, we would be grateful. All right, so I'd like to start with an opening prayer. So if you could join with me in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Good and gracious God, as we gather here as members and friends of the Parish Liaison Network, we thank you for calling us together. Be here with us as we support, foster, and advance the works of Catholic Charities and the parishes of the Diocese of Arlington. Open our hearts to recognize your presence among us. Open our minds to respond to your calling. Enable us to draw upon the wisdom and experience of yesterday as we respond to the questions and concerns of tomorrow. Help us to identify mental illness as the disease that it is, that we might have courage and wisdom in the face of ignorance and stigma. Inspire us as we seek to overcome fear, acquire knowledge, and advocate for compassionate and enlightened treatment and services. Give us the patience to listen openly without prejudice. Open unto us light, courage, hope, peace, joy, wisdom, and love. In your name, amen. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you. So at this time, I would like to introduce our Catholic Charities Family Services panelist. Jennifer Berry is a licensed clinical social worker. She has been with Catholic Charities Family Services for almost 4 years. Jennifer received her master's in social work from the Catholic University of America. We thank you for being here with us, Jennifer. Christina Almeida is a bilingual resident marriage and family therapist. She obtained her bachelor's and master's of science degrees from Virginia Tech University. Christina has been at Catholic Charities Family Services for 9 months now. And Irma Sandoval is our bilingual intake coordinator for Family Services North. Irma started at Catholic Charities as a volunteer, and she was with the Mother Mercy Free Clinic in Manassas. And 4 years ago, she actually joined our team as an employee in the role of intake coordinator for Family Services North in Fairfax. Irma also coordinates intakes and appointments for the Spanish-speaking community for Family Services South. Thank you all for being here with us today, and we look forward to what you have to share with us. And Jennifer, I will turn this meeting over to you. You are on mute, so you may unmute yourself.
Actually, I think Christina is going to be the one that's starting and utilize and controlling the slides.
Okay, and you know what? I forgot something. So thank you for clarifying that. I actually wanted to run a poll, and I'm going to do that before we have you do your presentation. All right, so I'm going to launch this. This is an initial awareness assessment. And please answer the question to the best of your ability. I'm launching it now. How much experience have you had caring for a person with depression, anxiety, or a mental health diagnosis? We have a few more minutes. About 3/4 of you have responded. This is such a great tool. All right, if you haven't already responded, I'll just end this in about 10 more seconds. All right, thank you. So actually, the outcomes of this is interesting. About 31% of you have had significant experience with caring for a person with depression, anxiety, or a mental health diagnosis. About 13% of you have a moderate level of awareness. 24% have had an average amount, and then 15% of us have had little, and then about 17% of our audience have had no experience. So I'm glad that we're all here today to learn and increase our awareness, and I thank you for your attention and your time. All right, Christina, welcome, and I will now turn this meeting over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Here we go. Shattering the Stigma, Mental Health Services at Catholic Charities.
Okay. So what is mental health? mental health is the emotional, psychological, and social well-being of a person. You can think of it as this picture, right? Picture well-being being this image. It's peaceful. I think what peace does to our bodies, right, is it relaxes us. It evens our breathing, it clears our thinking, and peace opens you up to experiencing joy. And sometimes hardships and challenges with loved ones or just big emotions can get in the way of this peace. And so people experience a range of emotions like sadness, stress, sleeping problems, anger. And some people have the tools to manage these feelings and emotions on their own, and others do need some guidance on how to better manage their emotions. And if left untreated, mental health illnesses can lead to poor quality of life, unnecessary disability, unemployment, substance use, homelessness, inappropriate incarceration, self-harm, and suicide. So here are just some statistics on mental health in the state of Virginia. And I believe this research has been done over a period of time, I believe from 2010 to 2020. So over 1,200,000 adults have experienced some kind of mental health condition. That is one in five adults live with a serious mental illness, which is, I think, more common than people would think. Virginia is 42nd out of 51 ranked in terms of ease to access mental health care. And an estimated of 85,000 to 104,000 children and adolescents will experience, in Virginia, experience serious emotional disturbances. This research states that about 50% of mental health disorders begin by the age of 14 and about 75% at the age of 25. And I mean, I think you guys can see these statistics and just know how shocking this is, really. So just going to therapy stigmas, and this is something that I plan to be interactive, so you can either comment or unmute yourselves to see what therapy stigmas you guys have heard.
Christina, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to know if you're able to speak a little bit louder. I'm getting feedback that some people are having a bit of a difficulty hearing.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So therapy stigmas, I would like you guys to just jot down some stigmas that you have heard about therapy.
Do you want them to do that in the chat?
Yes, that can be in the chat, or if I don't know if they have the ability to unmute themselves.
Sure. If you're open to have people making their comment, just unmute yourself and do that.
Christina, give me an example of stigmas. I'm not sure what you want.
Yeah, so stigma is something that it's always so hard to describe. It is something that maybe it will impede you from going to therapy. So it's this societal belief or a collective idea that that usually has some kind of negative connotation to it. So reasons why people feel discouraged to not go to therapy.
Because
That's
people who go to
great.
therapy are crazy. That's a stigma, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I'm going to read for you some of the comments that are in the chat. One is that going to therapy means I will lose my security clearance. That's a big one for Northern Virginia.
Mhm. Yeah.
Another one is you're a crazy person if you go to therapy. Another one is there are a lot of pejorative words for people doing this. And it is only for crazy people. And that just thinking positive will solve the problem. That it is a moral failing. Oh, that's a big one. How others view me will change. People who go to therapy are weak and unable to deal with their problems. Maybe going to therapy would affect hiring decisions for jobs or retaining a job or promotion. Therapy costs a lot and takes too much time. These are all spot on.
Yeah, these are all great. Thanks everyone for sharing your ideas. I just have a few here on the slide. So, right, starting therapy is a sign of weakness. You don't need therapy, just talk to family or friends. They must have gone through something horrible to need therapy. Therapy is for crazy people. So you guys are absolutely spot on with those stigmas. And some of the benefits of therapy, again, these are just a few, include a safe and confidential space to talk about any thoughts, feelings, or events, to learn to recognize and manage your thoughts and feelings. It can help to understand the past and gain tools for the future. It also can help you with guidance with relationships. So now, Jen will talk about some of the treatments offered by CCTA Family Services.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us here. Well, who are we? In Catholic Charities Family Services, we're trained mental health professionals from a variety of clinical backgrounds, including psychologists, professional counselors, social workers, marriage and family therapists, and something we are very excited to add in the near future are medication prescribers for clients without health insurance. This is going to be an incredible resource for some that have not been able to access needed medication in an affordable way, and we're really excited about being able to add that benefit for our clients that need it. Our clinicians are a mixture of professionals who are licensed and working on licensure, as well as interns and graduate programs and externs and PhD programs. And then, of course, we have our wonderful support staff, including Irma and Leanne and Brenda. Let's go to the next one, Christina. Yeah, what does counseling look like? So we offer a mixture of counseling services, including telehealth by phone and video, as well as in-person sessions at a variety of locations in the diocese, including our offices in Fairfax and Fredericksburg, as well as several parishes. Prior to the pandemic, all of our sessions were in person, and then COVID necessitated that we pivot and start meeting remotely with clients for a year before most of us started to return to face-to-face meetings. And that has really shifted things for us. We're still seeing a lot of people remotely. It seems that a lot of people prefer to meet remotely for a variety of reasons: convenience, flexibility, not having to deal with traffic or find childcare. So it's allowed us to be more flexible and serve those that might not be able to easily access our services at one of our physical locations. So that's been a real help. Session length. Our sessions usually are 45 to 50 minutes, with the initial session being a little longer at 90 minutes to give more time, since it's the first time we're usually meeting and filling out paperwork and doing those type of things. We offer therapy for adults, couples, families, and children. Now, when talking about the population served, one of the things that really did come to mind with the stigma questions about, people being crazy or who seeks services, I know that is one of the most common questions I get from people I meet and from friends and family are, what type of people do you work with? And I always answer everyone. I've worked with children as young as 10 to adults in their 80s, male, female, many Christian denominations, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, agnostics, atheists, people of so many different ethnic backgrounds and cultures, education and income levels. As a Catholic organization, we use the Catholic understanding of a person, and we often integrate our Catholic faith into our services when requested by clients. But as mentioned, our services are available to people of all faiths and backgrounds. So we really do work with I think everyone. Okay, next one, common issues addressed. Some of the common things that we see: anxiety, depression, grief and loss, marital and premarital concerns, parenting concerns, healing from abuse and injustice. But this list is by no means comprehensive. There are too many to list here. And we also work with other programs, including the Victim Assistance Program, Project Rachel, and when requested by the tribunal, sometimes relating to annulments or vadidums that are placed on someone when they're wanting to remarry in the church. And I think that's about it for me. And we're going to move on to Irma.
Good morning. To get started with who do we serve? We serve couples, families, individuals, and children. Our main locations are in Fredericksburg and Fairfax for North, and we also provide service online. And we have different satellite offices at different parishes. Getting started, the person needs to call to the intake line, which is in South region, which covered Fredericksburg and all South areas. Caller need to call at 703-859-3147. And for the North region, that's including Arlington, Springfield, Fairfax. We caller need to call at 703-447-9402. And I also cover for the Spanish-speaking South region. So for a Spanish speaking, need to call at 703-447-9402. And if you're interested in assessments, you need to call to the intake line at South region, which is 703-859-3147. When the person called, they need to be prepared to provide personal information such as phone number and address, and that includes presenting problems. Sometimes it's hard to people to discuss the presenting problems at the first call, because they are scared that need not be confidentially, but we provide very confidential. We cover by HIPAA, and that is very confidential. So after we get all this information, we do a financial review based on family income. After the intake is done, the caller will join the waiting list, from which we call to assign a clinician once the clinician have any opening or request a new client. Approximately 60% of the callers are Spanish speaking only. The most common issues are issues within the families. I receive a lot of calls from the parents. They're really alarmed about the problem that they have with their children. They don't want it to go to school, either that they are scared to be infected or they get so comfortable at home. And that create another issue because they get addicted to technology. And this is, that's the most calls that I receive from parents trying to get therapy with adolescents. Financial problems are also still affecting the families because a lot of people lost their job during the pandemic and they haven't been able to stabilize their income. We also offer psychological assessment for mental health diagnosis, or vocational assessment for religious order. We also have some different programs, non-counseling assistance. We have, I'm gonna mention a couple of them, like pregnancy and adoption. They offer help for pregnant women, and we have a closet with baby supplies, and the option to adopt or give a child in adoption. MRS also. Okay. This MRS like Migration and Refugees offers services to newcomers to becoming self-sufficient. And we also have the financial assistance, which they help people to, when they have financial issues, like they need to pay bills or rent or doctor bills. Okay.
Are you ready for me to take over, Irma?
Yes,
Okay.
you can take over. Yeah.
Well, how can your parish, how your parish can serve the needs of individuals with mental health issues? The great thing is, many parishes are already doing this. I mean, you're truly on the front line of with the interface with the community, both parishioners and the community at large. In my experience working with the 3 parishes where I met with clients prior to the pandemic, they often had very active ministries to help those in need with resources and referrals such as food pantries, emergency assistance, referrals to county resources such as the community service boards for mental health treatment, housing programs, financial assistance, and some parishes have the St. Vincent de Paul Society. As you can imagine, there are many stressors, including, as like Irma mentioned, loss of employment, illness, divorce, other financial concerns that impact our mental health. And these services often go hand in hand with the clinical services that we offer, as well as other programs that parishes offer, such as support groups, for grief, divorce, other things, retreats, Catholic Society and AA meetings. So the question is, like, how can we help? And one thing that I think the parishes that I've worked with have found helpful are including a listing for Catholic Charities Family Services in the weekly parish bulletin. and providing intake contact information for those seeking referral for services that may call the parish asking for referrals for Catholic, oftentimes Catholic-based services, possibly offering counseling services on site. And something else that I like to offer is a consultation for someone who is interested in counseling services, but may have some hesitation. There's no charge for this consultation. If there is, and we meet for up to an hour. You can meet for up to an hour for the first time. So if there is a therapist who is working with your parish, they can certainly contact that therapist. But if there is no one specific to your parish, you can refer them to one of the intake coordinators, Irma or Leanne, to request a consultation, and they can connect them with a counselor. But I think everybody does them, and it really can be really helpful just to put someone at ease. It's an opportunity to ask questions that they may have and just see what it's like, because oftentimes it may be someone's first experience with counseling. So, I think I found it to be beneficial for people to have that consultation to see if they feel comfortable with the process. Now I'm going to pass it over to Christina to talk about some tips and tricks you can apply.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Irma. Here's just some quick tips and tricks that you can apply. And this is if you are experiencing or if you are encountering someone who is either exhibiting symptoms of depression. So maybe they're crying, you see them crying, or they might be experiencing some anxiety, maybe some rapid breathing, panic attacks. These tools can be helpful. So grounding technique. Here's the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. And grounding techniques are used to bring attention back to the present. So when people are experiencing some kind of anxiety symptom, they're typically living in the future. And whenever they're experiencing some kind of depressive symptom, they are typically living in the past, right? They're ruminating about things that have happened. They have a sense of hopelessness. So this exercise just helps them come back to the present moment. So 5, you can see here, you're going to ask them, okay, just name, so it'll start with, okay, let's bring you back to this moment, right? I know that you are having a lot of worries, or I know that you're experiencing some kind of sadness, but let's do this exercise together. So let's name 5 things that you can see right now from where you're standing or where you're sitting. And then they'll list 5 things. You say, okay, great. Let's move on to the next thing. 4 things that you can touch or that you can feel. And then we'll go ahead and name those 4 things. And then they'll name 3 things that they can hear, 2 things that they can smell, and 1 thing that they can taste. I will say that smell and taste, it gets a little difficult for people to identify those last 2. But it gets them to focus, right? It gets them to focus on their body and to see, okay, what, if I'm being asked these questions, I really need to get there. So I need to focus in what I can smell and what I can taste. So this is just a good technique to, like I said, bring them back to the present. The next one is a deep breathing technique. This is 4 square breathing. And breathing techniques are used to regulate breathing and concentration. Many times when people are overwhelmed, anxious, they're dysregulated, their breathing is fast, their thoughts are zooming. And a lot of the times these people, they sense some kind of chaos going on. And the thing with deep breathing is it's controlled, right? So it's one thing that you can control as opposed to some maybe external factors that someone is experiencing some symptoms about. So you will start with breathing in for 4 counts. You hold that breath for 4 counts. You breathe out for 4 counts, and then you hold it for 4 counts. With children, I ask them to, there's always something in the room that is in the shape of a square. So I ask them to look for something and to just follow it with their eyes, so that gives them a cue. Okay, I'm going to go up and breathe in for 4 counts. Then I'll go across and hold that, go down, breathe out, and go back across and hold. So again, this is just to regulate breathing, clear thoughts, and get the person a little bit more regulated. And the last tool that you can do is active listening. So what active listening does is it helps the person who is speaking, right, feel heard and understood. So if someone is coming to you with some problems, either with their children or with their spouse, it is really helpful for them to feel like their problems seem valid to them. And that's what active listening does. It's you demonstrating, I understand why you're upset about something like this. It also helps build trust and strong relationships. It softens a person and it gets them to open up a little bit more. And naturally, that will bring them to a calmer state. So with active listening, right, one of the first steps is you show them that you're listening, right? You're probably making eye contact with them. You're giving them some verbal cues or nonverbal cues. This could either be like, okay, yes, I'm following, just some, okay. The next step would be to keep them talking, right? Ask open questions. What is that like? How, tell me more about that, right? What are your thoughts or feelings about that? And then you reflect what you are hearing back. So a lot of the times this sounds like, okay, what I'm hearing you saying is this, right? What I'm hearing you saying is that you are really struggling with some of your teen's behaviors or your child's behaviors, or you're really feeling alone in this marriage, and you would really like some help in just feeling more connected to your spouse. And then the last thing is, the purpose of active listening is to just understand, right? You're listening to understand. You're not listening to respond, right? You're trying to get a sense of what this person's experience is, so that you can demonstrate that understanding and then shift to more of a problem solving mode. So once that person feels like you really get them, then trying to come up with, okay, what could be helpful, right? Would a consultation be helpful? I know these therapy resources. Would that be helpful? Would it be helpful to talk to a priest? I think once that person is regulated enough, they're open, they're clear-minded, they're able to think things through and come up with some solutions. And that is it for our presentation. We are now opening the floor to questions and answers.
Christina, Jennifer, and Irma, thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you some questions that have come in through the chat, and some additional questions. If you have a specific question that's not asked, we'll open this up shortly, and we'll ask you to unmute yourself, and then we can ask. The first question is, what is the average wait time to get in to see a therapist with Catholic Charities?
The wait time is over 3 months, but we select some clients based on the presenting problems. If the presenting problems is urgent, that take priority.
When you say presenting problems that take a priority, could you elaborate
Yes.
on that a little bit, like what that might mean?
Yeah, when the like we have some clients, they calling with suicidal thoughts or some sexual abuse or some like major problems. So that take priority.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Christina, I think your screen share is still on. Would you mind stopping that so we could just see everybody during this question and answer period?
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. Oh, there's a question about counseling services and whether or not they are financially need-based. Trish, are you asking if a decision to assign a clinician to somebody on a wait list is based on their financial need, or are you asking whether or not we work on a sliding scale? I think you could probably address both.
I mean, I can grab that one.
Thank you.
I don't believe that they're assigned by what somebody is paying. That we do have a sliding scale, and the sliding scale is based on income and family size, and that's something that Irma goes over during the intake. And so when somebody does the intake process with Irma, they would know what the fee would be, so they can decide if that is something they can afford. We no longer take insurance, but we will provide the documentation necessary for, submitting as an out-of-network provider. If someone does have insurance and wants to submit the claim to their insurance company, which I know some clients do, but our sliding scale, I mean, is one of the reasons I really love working for Catholic Charities, because it is a very generous sliding scale. The lowest that somebody would pay is $6. And that, obviously much more affordable than most practices and agencies. So Irma would have to answer the question, but I think a very significant portion of our clients are able to benefit from the sliding scale for services. So that is something we do offer.
Yeah, that was really my question, was just, in terms of referring, it doesn't matter what someone's income level is. If they're looking for the help, we can certainly refer them to the office. And then from there, it's a determination, on that sliding scale, but it's not, oh, okay, well, you're, you're in this box. Sorry, you're not.
No, we actually assigned the client to a clinician based on the presenting problems, because I identified which clinician could be able to help this presenting problem according with the experience of the clinician.
Great.
Thank you. So it's not financially based. Thank you. Another question. For Jennifer, how long will a client need to meet with a counselor?
Well, this is a really tough one, because sometimes people will come in and they'll be like, so how many sessions do we need to have until my problem is gone? and that's really impossible to say. I mean, it really differs from person to person. Sometimes there's a very short-term goal for therapy. So it may be a very short-term relationship, whereas other times there may be multiple goals or issues to address. And sometimes we have clients that stay with us for a very long time. I mean, they may, with time, meet with us less often. But as one of the things Christina mentioned, it's, for many, it's a safe place to share their stressors and their challenges. Sometimes people don't feel as comfortable talking to friends and family, or feeling like they're burdening them with the stressors in their lives. And so it really varies from person to person, how long that can last and what they're working on. But it could be very short term, maybe working on some coping skills or having some extra tools in their toolbox, to somebody that really is looking for a long-term relationship and, working on different things. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Christina.
No, I think that, I mean, that's a very common question that that I get, is how many sessions? I think there might be some agencies that only allow up to a certain amount of sessions. So I think maybe that is where that question might be coming from, is, oh, I went to like this place and they only allowed me 10 sessions. Is that the same that I'm going to experience here? And it's not. You get to determine when you want to stop. The client does.
Christina. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between an intake and a consultation. There's some question about that. And with someone who has never been to counseling and they don't know what to expect, how do they know if it's right for them? And how is this different from what we talked about in terms of an intake?
Well, an intake is when they actually do want to be assigned to a clinician. And that gives an opportunity, like mentioned, to do the financial review with IRMA to find out how much it would be. It also is an opportunity to let her know if they have some preferences about working with a counselor. Some people would prefer to work with a woman. Someone might prefer to work with a man. Sometimes I know she has questions about how old the therapist is or age-wise and things like that. So someone may have a preference, but a consultation is just a one-time opportunity to meet with a counselor that may or may not be the one that you work with. Like when we were in more parishes before, things have kind of changed a little bit since the pandemic, but when we were all in parishes, if we were doing a consultation, it was that we were the only person that they could probably meet with because we were the only one coming out to that parish. Now things have changed. If they're willing to do teletherapy, that opens up, all of our therapists to meet with. So the benefit of that is if for some reason, if someone maybe preferred to work with a male therapist and the person assigned to their parish was a female therapist, they wouldn't have that option. Now there is that option and that flexibility, but the consultation is just that opportunity to meet with somebody once, to talk about what they're looking for, to ask any questions that they have. And I know one thing I always include when I send them IRMA's information for the intake, if they're interested in moving forward with Catholic Charities, either with me or another therapist, is that I also provide some other information to them about other Catholic-based counseling services, which are, Alpha Omega and the Divine Mercy Clinic. So usually I'll give them that information as well, just in case they want to check and see if there's, the financial options are different or if it's more convenient to attend one of the others.
Thank you, Jennifer. We talked about asking a person who may be having some challenges, whether or not they might like to talk to a priest. And can you speak to how priests are trained with respect to mental health awareness or training, and what the difference might be between talking to a priest versus referring someone to therapy or a clinician?
A priest has just a counselor is more trained, right, with mental health specific concerns. So a lot of the times priests can provide some kind of like understanding, right? Understanding and compassion and validation, and religious guidance, if that is what the person is seeking. And a lot of the times priests do refer some of the people that go to him to counseling services. And there have been times where we do receive direct priest referrals, and those are also high priority. They get high priority as well.
And there have been, we have had some priests come through as part of our, like with our extern program as well. So there are priests that are trained in mental health, but they really vary, I think, in their comfort level with mental health issues and in their own individual training. But like Christina said, I know we do get referrals from them, and oftentimes clients will come in and say, the priest they were working with is happy to address their religious concerns about something, but that there may be something that's more delves into the counseling area, and they will make that referral and say you really need to see a counselor, which is really helpful for us, to have that validation from a priest. I think oftentimes makes people feel more comfortable with the process of counseling if they haven't had any experience before.
Thank you. So someone comes into a parish and they might be having a panic attack, or they might be having some suicidal thoughts. They would be in maybe a mental health emergency. How would, if someone's coming into the parish and you're the first person on the line, what do you recommend someone do?
I think at that point you call 911 if they're having suicidal thoughts or a panic attack, because we recognize that, well, we are not emergency services. So we as clinicians at this outpatient facility don't have the resources because we're not emergency service, we don't do that. So we also don't expect and train the parishioners or just staff at the parish to be able to do that. And just it's better handled by emergency services. So that's 911. There are some other numbers that I'm sure that we can provide for you guys, just mental health emergency services.
Right. Yeah, we have listed on our panel like suicide hotlines. And the distinction between our clinic and an emergency services is, panic attack, someone might feel like they're having a heart attack, or their chest will be so heavy. And so it's better to have emergency personnel who are trained in healthcare intervene. Or, you might need, if someone is suicidal on your property, you might need the support of trained personnel to try and keep an area safe. And so it's just important to leverage your community support and not try and handle that by yourself. And 911, they're skilled and trained with dealing with mental health emergencies. And so it's important to reach out for that support if someone's coming into a parish in crisis. Let's see. Confidentiality. Can you speak to that? Here we live in Northern Virginia where so many people have clearances or military backgrounds or just are private and just don't want, if they go to a parish or they talk to somebody or they go to a priest, there might be shame or fear of how they'll be perceived. And with having a mental health issue or a crisis in their family. Can you speak to what confidentiality is and how it's protected in the clinical setting?
Well, Irma mentioned HIPAA, and we are guided by HIPAA. We do have a very strict code of confidentiality. Now, how that plays into security clearances and things, that is, obviously that's something someone would need to know with their employer. Because I recently had a situation, I won't go into too many details, but it's somebody that had been seeing me and then was considering going into the military. And we maintain someone's privacy. We are not going to provide records unless we are we receive some kind of legal document. And even then the lawyers will handle whether we actually have to turn over information. But when somebody goes in and they're asked a question, are you receiving any kind of services? And they say, yes, I am. Then they're opening it up. And also they're the ones requesting that we provide those records. So, I don't know how that works with security clearances, and I can certainly understand where someone would be concerned. And we provide, we will keep things confidential, to the ability of the law that we're able to. We do not we do not share information with family members or employers. Somebody can just not call up. We won't even acknowledge that somebody is a client. That in itself is confidential. But what people choose to share with their employer, what they're required to because of clearances or the expectations of governmental positions, that I don't know. I haven't had any real experience with that. I don't know if Christina has. Or Amber.
Yeah, I can't say that I have either. What I will just add on to what you were saying, Jen, is our offices don't even say like mental health or like counseling. I think it just says Catholic Charities. So you know what offers to go into. But if someone were to be like standing, so our office in Fairfax is a building. I think it has 4 floors. I think we're at the top.
Five.
5 floors. So it's this big building you can walk into, and anyone who is watching you could think that you're going into any office really. And like I said, our office doesn't say anything about mental health or counseling. So you could just be receiving some kind of Catholic charities service, and no one will know what exactly that is.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. Anybody going into therapy, they are the holder of what's called privilege. That is their privileged information. And clinicians are bound by that ethical obligation, but also by law, not to disclose who a client is, who they're seeing, anything about them. It is private, completely and wholly. With respect to government agencies, Jennifer's spot on. If you are disclosing that you've received services, you are giving permission. You are disclosing that. So quite often, individuals who are looking for services will be discreet, and they'll pay in cash and not run their counseling services through their insurance. They will just individuals who are sensitive to any type of clearances or investigations relative to their job, no, but they are the ones who are holding the privilege. The clinician cannot disclose that the person is even a client unless there is a release of information by the person that's in therapy. So it's important to understand how confidential the experience is, because it's critical to building trust and being able to have effective treatment. So when people are speaking to you about that, I think that's something in a consultation that can be explored. And because there's no fee, there's no way to track that someone is in consultation with a therapist or a clinician for a mental health issue.
And they're also not technically a client.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, now this really will conclude this portion of our question and answer session. But there were two more. So after this, there'll be one more question, and then there was a question about how we can get word out in our parishes about the services that Catholic Charities offers. And is there a template that we can post online or in bulletin pamphlets? And yes, we can get that to you. We can do that in our PLN follow-up, and you can reach out to our office, and we certainly would be more than happy to get that resource to you to make it easy for you to post it in your bulletins. Our final question is, in this changing world, here we are all gathered together virtually. We don't have that networking opportunity like we used to have with lunch and being in person. So the question is, is teletherapy as effective as meeting somebody in person? And can you address this?
And I think it really varies from person to person. Like I mentioned, I think a lot of people do prefer it. They're comfortable in their own homes or in their own offices. They're not dealing with the stress of worrying about being at our office by a certain time or running late or getting caught in traffic. It has changed a little bit recently because now, we we oftentimes are not wearing masks in our office, but for a long period, we were required to wear masks in sessions. And so a lot of people did prefer the teletherapy because it was easier to see faces than being even face to face, and having that, not being able to see facial expressions and things like that. But I really do think that it really varies from person to person, and that most of my clients I've gotten a lot of positive feedback that they feel comfortable with, especially if there's video added. But I don't know if Christina or if Irma's gotten different feedback from people on the phone. But
Deborah,
Yes, Gary.
John's question was a very good one, because it opens up a whole arena of how we come in contact with people. There's sort of two groups, if you will, of those who are seeking help and asking us, because they don't know anything about mental health, where could they turn or how could they get help, or those people we encounter who may not be looking for mental health, but because of what the clinicians have explained to us about the different varieties of anxiety, family relationships, depression, all those different things to look for when people are coming to us, or just manifesting something we believe might be an indicator of a mental health issue. In those cases, we're dealing with people who aren't necessarily looking for that help, but things that we might find in the parish that they might need, they should be looking for it. Whether you could be a CCD teacher dealing with a child who's acting up, and whether the parents acknowledge it or not. So there's a variety of things that John's question opens up, whether you've got one group seeking help, or those groups that aren't, but are nevertheless manifesting some kind of mental health problem.
And right, Gary, and I thank you for elaborating on that more. And we certainly here at Catholic Charities want to be able to provide as much support in this area to our parishes as we can. And we'll be sure and follow up with all of that and the best ways to reach out. As a cursory overview, to speak to that also is our website is packed full of information. And if you go to our website and you click need help and you're looking for family services, the phone numbers and emails and information are listed there. But we will definitely get your parish's information, so that if you want to put this in your bulletins or have flyers posted up in your parishes, that we get you the most updated and accurate information. And speaking of parish support, I'm going to take this opportunity to transition to a wonderful community ministry that is happening at the Basilica at St. Mary's Parish. We have a guest with us today. Her name is Kirsten Obadal, and she is a peer support. Well, I don't know if I would put on, if I want to put the pressure on you of being a specialist, but peer support friend at St. Mary's, and has built this community to support, as a layperson, a non-mental health professional, to support other members in a parish who may be seeking community support with their mental health or with mental health issues, mental illness, or mental health wellness. And I'd like to introduce Kirsten Obadal, and I will hand this over to you, and you can share with us what you're doing. You're in your parish. This might be something that can be replicated among you and the other parishes in our diocese. And this is an introduction to the services that they're providing and how this complements what we do at Catholic Charities. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate that very kind introduction. So I'm going to use the term peer. It comes from the word PIR, person in recovery. So let me just clear this so I can read this slide. The St. Libre community is a peer-led non-clinical spiritual fellowship for adults who live with mental health conditions. Most members live with serious and chronic mental illnesses. The support network meets weekly for spiritual support groups, as well as for occasional retreats. The community offers a faith-based alternative to secular approaches to mental health therapy. recovery. I don't want to use the word therapy. We're not therapists. A foundational concept is that mental health is vastly facilitated by a vibrant life of faith. Next, please. So our service area, the St. Libre community, has no geographical borders, but has found a home in the gracious use of facilities at the Basilica of St. Mary in Alexandria. The faithful are invited to start their own Libre communities at the parish or diocesan level. The diocese has adopted our model of a day of prayer for mental health, which is an annual event. So stay tuned. The next day of prayer is being planned now. It was going to be in May, and then we encountered some hiccups. So that will be at a later time, probably at the end of the summer. A few words about Saint Benedict Joseph Libre. He is the patron saint of the homeless and of those with mental illness. Benedict lived with schizophrenia. He became a third order Franciscan and a mendicant pilgrim in Rome. Hailing from Normandy, France, he became widely known for his generous intercessory prayer, his devotion to adoration and the sacraments. Miracles occurred at the time of his death, and a massive crowd gathered to mourn this homeless holy man. Here is some contact information. You will see the first line is a website that I have set up through the good offices of the Association of Catholic Mental Health Ministers, which is based in Scranton, Ohio. It's a virtual consortium of Catholics with either mental health conditions or mental health professional experience. And they invited me to become a chapter. So I decided to do that. And it's nice because they pay for the website. So my Gmail is listed secondly as tlibrecommunity@gmail.com. There are a couple of resources that I should point out to you. Excuse me. The University of San Diego is a Catholic university and offers a course through continuing education in mental health ministry. I decided to spend the time with this course. It was helpful to me, and I think you would like it. The book that comes along with it is particularly helpful for those interested in doing mental health ministry. Sanctuary, on the platform called Formed, Sanctuary Ministries has a wonderful course that you can do in your parish about mental health and the faith in recovery. I've been trying to set that up at St. Mary's, and I will be sure to let the organizers know if I'm able to get that going. I work 2 jobs, and so sometimes these things fall through the cracks. Also in July, you should know that the federal government is rolling out 988 crisis support. So for people with suicidal ideation, it's going to be 988. You can call it or text from anywhere in the country. And I believe the startup date is in July. So again, the St. Libre community is we're not for people in crisis. We are for people who are living in treatment with their illnesses and who seek faith and fellowship as critical parts of their recovery. Thank you. Next slide is just, I think, says questions or something like that.
Kirsten, thank you. And I'd like to open this up to our meeting. Does anyone have a question for Kirsten about this ministry, how it might be something that can support your community, or just any other general questions? Kirsten, I'm curious how long this has been happening at St. Mary's.
Well, I set up the St. Libre community in about 2018, and I hosted, again, people from all over the diocese came. I organized a day of prayer for mental health. We started with Mass. I had 2 speakers. Father Kevin Barnico spoke, and Deacon Ed Schoner from Scranton, Pennsylvania spoke, and I spoke. And we had time for confession, and we stayed later on for praise music and board games, and spent the whole day in the St. Mary's Lyceum. And so that was 2018, and that's also when I started the weekly spiritual support groups as well. And and we meet on the second and fourth Saturday of the month in person. And then the first and third Sunday of the month, we meet virtually on Sunday evenings. And that information is on the website. Yes, and we do have members from a variety of parishes actually, but Father Hathaway is kind enough to give us space in which we can meet. Yeah.
Wonderful. So just to reiterate, if anybody is interested in getting more information, please go to the St. Mary Basilica website and look for the St. Laubre Community webpage, which has information as to when they meet and where they meet, and also Kirsten's direct contact information for additional questions.
Thanks very much, Deborah.
You're welcome, Kirsten. This is a beautiful ministry, and thank you for your initiative and for the support that you provide the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any final questions about that? And if not, I'd like to transition to a hard left away from mental health and mental health awareness and onto food insecurity. And I'd like to invite Lori Sikra, who is our parish liaison outreach for parishes and food with the St. Lucie Food Project. And she's here to give us an update on the St. Lucie Food Project, as well as the Mobile Response Center. Thank you for being here with us today, Lori.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody on today. Thank you for your time. So just to recap kind of where we are right now within St. Lucie's. Back when COVID started, they had anticipated this ginormous spike. The spike was going to be close to where we were by the Great Depression numbers, which was about 52 or 54 million insecure. It wasn't as high as that. So US numbers trended more about 42 million total, with about 13 million being in kids. How that looks for us as far as a diocese go is close to 300,000, where we were around 200 to 250,000 food insecure. We're now closer to 300,000, with 77 being kiddos. So how that looked before COVID. This is a map of what it looked like as far as our food insecurity numbers and our trends rolling up until 2017. And those numbers kind of stayed true even beyond this. But you can kind of see where a lot of the food insecurity fell and the counties that it affected, with the lowest being in Loudoun County at 3.4. The highest was Fredericksburg City at close to 15. And Page County that you see in the orange over there was closer to 12. What has happened now and where we are now with the COVID numbers? We know that there's a lot of things that are up. Inflation, gas prices, oil, grocery prices, housing, and the interest rates that continue to incrementally climb, but also stress levels, which go back to the purpose of our time together today, is how some of these really do affect us mentally, and the stress levels with all this combined and then some and more can really play a part in our mental health and where we go having food insecurity. The changes to the map now are a lot more reds that you're going to see. We noted that a lot of the counties, especially in our diocese out west, were more affected by the food insecure numbers. And so this is kind of reiterates, the point of our ministry. Why are we here? What are we doing? And how can we continue to help? The numbers for Loudoun County, even though they're still in green, they're now at 6.3%. The number for Fredericksburg City didn't change that much. They're still hovering at 15. Page County, though, went from 12 to almost 16.5. So 16.6. So you can see that the effect of it, we're still not kind of out of that intense portion of COVID, and we still are doing everything that we can to support and augment a lot of the pantries that are on our network to be able to supply them with food, which is why we reach out to you in the support of all the parishes. And so next slide, please. So what do we do? What are we doing here? Well, we're doing and we're feeding and we're helping with hygiene, and that's why we need your continued help. Food is an ongoing need. No matter what the numbers are, it is still going to be an ongoing need. We're going into summer right now. The kids have about 4 more weeks of school, or about their 4 to 5. They're going into standardized testings, but you still have parents that are going to continue to work, and they still have to clock in and out, and they still have to, if they're not remote, they still have to be away from their kiddos, especially with their kiddos being home. And so our summer hungry plan and program is going to be going into effect here. So we're going to need some support with foods that the kids can eat at home, as well as the food that the parents need to put dinner on the table at night as a family. The hygiene, though, is something that we continue to ask for. And what's happening that we're seeing is those hygiene requests are going up. They're going up because the need is increasing for those, and the balancing act that families are having to try to make ends meet is continually getting more complicated. We're finding that in areas in Woodstock, from our conversations with the local pantry that we support it out in St. John Bosco, we do hygiene distributions once a month, and the pantry that we try to coincide with, we do that for the purpose of the clients, because clients are driving, using gas and using money to get there with gas to get to that pantry for food, but they also then stop at St. John Bosco for their hygiene needs. And so we plan that out intentionally so that we can support, so that they're not using more gas money and using their other resources to come back on a different day when we haven't paired up. And so we are very strategic in that formula and the days that we pick. But the hygiene supports a lot more as far as how it fits into the mix, because it is a tangible non-food item that still provides the comfort to the clients who need them. A lot of the hygiene items and the supplies that families need to keep, to use in the bathrooms, and the cleaning supplies and the baby supplies, those aren't something they can purchase with their SNAP money and their SNAP account. And that's what we want to be able to provide. So not only do we provide that in Woodstock, but we provide it to the pantries in our network that are needing those hygiene items and those supplies, so that we can continue to augment and support them as best as we can. But how do we do that? Again, is we ask for hygiene and food drives. We reach out to the expertise and the connections that you guys have at the parish to any level to be able to do that. And so what that would mean is just keeping us in mind whenever there's an opportunity, allowing us to be able to continue to have that open communication with you and with the parishes that you're at, and the connections that in the contacts there, to be able to say, is there an opportunity for the parish and those within the parish to serve? And maybe even outside the parish, if there's a group organization willing and interested in helping us. And so that's where please share any information that you have from St. Lucy's. Take my information here at lori.secra@ccda.net, or my phone number, and allow them to be able to have that communication so we can help them out. And what we'll be able to do is be as accommodating as we can as far as customizing whatever that collection looks like, supporting in any way that we possibly can. To allow us to continue to do this. I think that is pretty much the last of our slides, and those are some pictures at Christ House of the individuals that Sister Annie serves. And so, yeah, let's see, questions. Deborah, are you reading these and I answer them, or how are we doing this? Let me see how far
Sorry,
back.
I had to unmute myself.
You did, lady.
I did. Yeah, we have a minute for some questions. And here, how about if I throw them out to you and you can answer them?
Yes, please, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Let me scroll down. So do you supply toilet paper as a non-tangible item as well?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you could give a list of some of the
shampoo,
typical.
yeah, we can put that up. Shampoo has been the item that we just can't keep our hands on. That and any kind of the soaps, the shampoos, anything bubbly. It's the dish soap, laundry detergent, bars of soap, and shampoo. Those are our more highly sought after requested items. Yeah. Toilet paper and paper towels. Those are a little bit chunkier, so we try to monitor the inventory of that because it takes up a lot of space, and we have some space limitations too, just like everybody else as far as where can we store everything. So we're really mindful of those items, but absolutely need them.
What was that? Oh, you're touching. Oh, I'm touching.
That's really great. Thank you. Thank you for all the great work that you're doing with the St. Lucie project. That heat map was astonishing to me, and I'm so grateful to Catholic Charities and the diocese and the support that the parishes are giving to help our neighbors in need. We could not do it without your organizational efforts and the large volunteer lift that's required to do these parish food drives. And St. Lucie is been feeding the hungry for many years, and that's only possible because of our collaboration and partnership. And I encourage you to reach out to Lori to schedule your food drives for the fall, the summer, the fall, and next spring. It's easier to plan these things farther in advance for everybody for maximum participation and individuals in our parishes who really do want to help and serve in this way.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah, for saying that. We are really, really grateful for all the partnerships that we have with our parishes and with you.
Absolutely. And again, Lori's information will be in our PLN follow-up in case you weren't able to get it off the screen today.
You want to speak?
Thank you.
This is Dick Quincan from All Saints Church. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jillian and Rich.
Yeah.
Would you be able to mute, or if you're on the phone or taking another call, if you could mute yourself, and we would appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
And our next
Deb?
exciting, what's that, Gary?
A question for Lori. Our parish, St. Catherine's, just does a food drive twice a year. We wouldn't likely be able to get in another drive just to do hygiene. So could we add to the, the list we put that we attached to all the blue bags? Could we add to that list, the hygiene items as well, so that when people see it, they're just going to put food in because that's what the list says. If we could add some hygiene items, we could then include that when we do our 2 food drives.
Yeah, Gary, that's a great idea. And we can absolutely explore that. We will have to look at a different vehicle because you guys bring those vans back in pretty packed. So that would be customizing to make sure that we had the space because of the generosity of your all's parish. But that's an excellent idea and one that we've done before. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, next on our agenda is a ministry update from our Mother of Mercy Free Clinic. And we are so privileged today to have Alexander Lovano, our program director, who is a tireless advocate for providing healthcare to the underinsured and uninsured. And Alexander, we're so happy to have you here with us today to share the great news of this new addition to the clinic.
Thank you, Deborah. Yeah, we are extremely excited at the Mother of Mercy Free Clinic because in April, we were able to open up an optometry clinic, and you can see some pictures of all this amazing equipment that we were able to get. This was one of the services that we had over 200 patients on our waiting list, waiting to be seen by an optometrist or an ophthalmologist for routine eye care, but also, when you're a diabetic, you should be getting your eyes checked every 6 to 12 months. And so that wasn't happening. We had worked with several partners in the community who would see 1 to 2 patients a month for many years. And then the pandemic hit and they weren't seeing their own patients. So they had a backlog, and that kind of ended our partnership with many of them because they just couldn't get our patients in and catch up with their own patients as well. And, you know, when you pray and you ask God for something, he never fails to provide. So I was able to meet Dr. Johnson, who is shown on the picture. Well, I took my son to the eye doctor and we got to talking, and he said, oh, well, if you can find the equipment, then I'm interested in volunteering. And so this was a year ago. It was in May of 2021. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it was on my list of things to do. And, you know, the pandemic, we were short staffed, all these things were happening. And then we had a volunteer, John Maloney, who's actually probably on the Zoom as well. And he started volunteering at the clinic and said, hey, what can I help you with? And I said, I want to set up an ophthalmology clinic. And he's like, I'm in IT. So that's not really what I do, but I'll be happy to look into it. And it's been such a blessing to have him come on board and to continue to ask and pursue God, you know, to do this for us. And we applied for a grant, and we actually received the exact amount that we needed in addition to what we had asked for, that covered the cost of all the equipment. So thanks to that, we were able to provide our patients with the ophthalmology care and optometry care, and we're able to start seeing them now more often. So it's huge. We have this service only in our Woodbridge location, but we are, you know, asking our patients from both of our locations to come and see that. Our other huge news for this quarter is that we have increased our federal poverty level. So effective last month, for April 1st, we are starting to see patients that are up to 300% of the federal poverty. So we were seeing in the past patients that were only under 200% of the federal poverty. That has gone up. And that was actually a request from one of our hospitals. Our hospital partner was, you know, I met with them and they said, you know, with the economy and how things are, you know, why don't you increase? And we will be happy to see these patients and provide their care up to 300% of the federal poverty. So we went ahead and did that as well. And that has been a huge help for some of our patients.
Alexandra, for those of us who may not be familiar with those kinds of metrics, can you explain what that means? I know that the federal government establishes a baseline income for poverty. And so when you talk about 100 or 200 or 300%, maybe providing some income scales to help people understand what that means could translate who we're serving.
Sure. So currently that changes every January. I think currently one single person can qualify for services at about $24,000 a year. That was 200% of the federal poverty, and that has gone up to $30,000 a year. So if we in Northern Virginia, $30,000 a year is not much. Once you remove taxes, you pay for, you know, your grocery bill, you pay your rent, and these people don't have insurance. We serve patients that don't have insurance, so uninsured and underinsured. But at this moment, we haven't had anyone that's underinsured come for services. So all of our patients have no insurance. And if you guys are aware, in 2019 in Virginia, Medicaid expanded. So they expanded to provide Medicaid services to up to 138% of the federal poverty level. However, many of our patients are still falling in that gap where they don't make enough to be able to pay for a doctor visit and to get care. And they don't make, you know, their income doesn't qualify them for Medicaid. or we have people that unfortunately aren't eligible for Medicaid services because of their legal status as well.
Appreciate you explaining that. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to be here and share with us your vision. And thank you, John, for your continued generosity and support and volunteering, your expertise in helping Alexandra and Catholic Charities open this critical service in the Mother of Mercy Clinic. Also, I do believe Alexandra is still recruiting any opticians or ophthalmologists who may be interested in volunteering for the clinic. And so if you could promote this within your parishes, I know we would be very grateful. And then my final question for you, Alexandra, are there any types of donations, eyeglasses or eye frames or anything like that you're collecting to support the clinic?
Actually, we're also blessed to work with Northern Virginia Family Services, and they're able to get the glasses for our patients for absolutely free. So, yeah, but I do encourage you, as I said, I met Dr. Johnson by taking my son to get a vision exam. So sometimes it just takes you going to the doctor and saying, hey, by any chance, would you be interested in either volunteering at the clinic as an optometrist, or maybe they can see a patient in their office. Maybe, they're willing to do something like that. Because in our office at the clinic, we can do eye exams, but a lot of our patients will require additional services and surgeries, et cetera. And because Northern Virginia is so big and our patients are willing to go anywhere, if you're able to do that, we would really, really appreciate it.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, well, we are now towards the end of our meeting. I just have a few other announcements and remarks. A few years ago, we had a volunteer, Julie Wetzel, who had stepped up and started a prayer warrior program for individuals who are most specifically struggling with addiction to opioids or alcohol, or those who are returning from incarceration. Quite often we see mental health issues presented and people are self-treating with prescription meds or alcohol. And so it's appropriate to mention this wonderful resource that Catholic Charities has, and especially in Judy, where she composes a beautiful newsletter every month. It's published for free, and we have inspiring articles and prayerful intentions that are submitted by readers. You can subscribe to this newsletter, and you can submit any prayer intentions that you may have. They may not necessarily have to do with an opioid addiction, but even in the area of mental health or substance abuse, and you can send those intentions to Hope Not Opioids at ccda.net. If you have any additional questions on that, let us know. The next thing is suicide prevention. Quite often severe anxiety and depression and some other forms of mental illness really can lead to severe suicidal ideation. And so many individuals are touched by this, and the rates of teen suicide are extremely high, particularly right now. I encourage you, this is a terrifying topic and it's really challenging to deal with, but to educate yourself on it. And to not wait. If you sense at any time anybody is presenting with suicidal ideation, call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. They have wonderful resources. They're a tremendous source of support. Their number's listed here. And as was mentioned earlier, there's a national line similar to 911 that will be instituted in July of 2022. 988 will be the new hotline, which will be so much easier. Please post this in your parishes. Julie, would you mind going back one more slide? I also wanted to mention that some of you may not be aware that there's actually a National Alliance on Mental Illness. They're a tremendous resource. for anything and all things related to mental health and mental illness. They have a national website, which is NAMI or NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness.org. And they also have a phone number, 1-800-950-NAMI or 6264. And then they also have an email. If at any time you have any additional questions or global questions or are seeking information or support groups, they're a wonderful resource, something that you could also post in your parishes. Thank you, Julie. We're always looking for more parish representatives to join our parish liaison network and become familiar with Catholic Charities and how we can collaborate and work together. Our goal is to have 2 PLN representatives per parish. We had several representatives that were planning to be here today, and then they were unable to meet because of other obligations that came up. And so it helps if there's a substitute that can come in so that we can be sure to get any critical information to your parishes. So please recommend someone for this role. And if you have questions, email volunteer@ccda.net. And we thank you for your continued support and dedication to this ministry. Final announcement, we will email a recap of this meeting along with the Zoom video recording. There's some good information that was shared in here. So I'm glad that we're not always able to download and send that video link out. So we're working on learning our technology as this ministry continues virtually. And please mark your calendars for our next PLN meeting, which will be on Wednesday, September 14th at 10 a.m. We're still pretty mindful of people's vulnerabilities with respect to the coronavirus, and we're still looking at whether or not we're going to continue this platform in person or virtually. So please keep an eye on your emails and notifications about whether that will be virtual or in person. And we appreciate so much everybody being here today, being patient, being listening, and all the support that you provide to your parishes and parishioners. I'd like to end us in prayer, and then I'll keep the meeting open if anybody wants to chat or connect or have any additional questions. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Jesus, sometimes, Divine Spirit, we feel discouraged and hopeless in the face of so many challenges. Help us to see ourselves as you see us, persons of value and worth, persons of creativity and potential. May we come to understand the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit in bringing about health and wholeness. Be with doctors, therapists, researchers, social workers, and all those in helping professions, and be with those who are struggling with mental illness and their families and loved ones. Give us courage to face our challenges and open us today to the many ways you are already working in our midst. In your name, amen. The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you all, and I will be here if there are any questions.
Deborah? Hi, this is Deirdre. I'm from Our Lady of Good Counsel.
Hi, Deirdre.
I work full-time. If we switch back to